Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a very crazy, we're going to have a very crazy talk, you and I. Off the hook, not the same kind of personal growth that we are used to, but I believe that you're going to be able to find yourself in one of the things that we are going to talk about, and then you're going to be able to change your life, or you're going to be able to do things differently, because then you will know that there's authority, there's empowerment, and there's something that God has wished for you for the longest time, okay? So I want us to be able to dive into there. But before we go into there, I want us to be able to reassure ourselves that, number one, things are going to get better. It doesn't matter where you are in life, things are going to get better. It's possible that something is crashing, something is crumbling, something is not working out the way you hope that it would work, but something is going to get better in your life, and so we are believing with you, okay? And then because the situation can be a fact. I feel like encouraging someone, the situation can be a fact in your life. Like it is really a fact that you don't have money, that it's really a fact that your marriage is affected. It's really a fact that your children are sick. It's really a fact, okay, that you're going through depression. But it being a fact does not change who God is. Okay? It does not change who God is, that he is a healer, that he is a giver, that he gives us the strength to make wealth, and that he does all those things for us. So I need you to be able to tap into that possibility. I know that when situations come, you can get crushed and you feel like this is it. I don't think I will ever see the light again. This is the end of the tunnel, but it is not the end of the tunnel. And that is why today we're talking about don't insult God. So many of us have insulted God in so many ways. Okay, and the reason as to why I'm saying that don't insult God is because I vividly feel it on my heart that this is a winning season for so many of us. This is a winning season for so many of us. And I don't want the wave to drive off without you. You know how the waves on the lake come? Have you seen the surfers, the people that surf on the oceans, and how they ride on the wave? That if there is no wave, you can see the surfers very disappointed, because then they have their boards, but there is no wind. The water is still. And you can't just put it on the water and then float. You can't, because it needs the wave to come, the tide to come. And so when the tide comes, that is the momentum that gives the surfer the courage to be able to ride the wave and be able to even enjoy the sport or enjoy the game. Okay? So you realize that for so many of us, there is a wave, okay? And the reason as to why you are here, the reason as to why you are watching, the reason it's because you feel it on the inside of you that there's something more for me. We're not here to waste time. You feel it that there's something more for me. So I don't feel like this time should leave me alone. Even when you should have had 1,000 things to do, even when you should have had 1,000 things to use your money on. You think you didn't have things to spend your money on? You know, it could be even just a nice haircut or a nice hair with something. But the reason as to why you even pay is that God, this is an act of faith. An act of faith that I do not want to miss the wave. I don't want God to pass me by, you know. I want to be able to be in that moment, and I want to be able to see the so many things. So the thing is, he is giving you time to make it right now. There are so many of us that we could have gotten it right 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Has someone of us ever felt like, I think I am late to this? I think I have arrived here late. You get it? And so many of us feel like that. There's a movie I was watching recently, and someone was telling, it was a scientist. And so this person was telling, it was a gentleman, a black gentleman and a white lady. And so this man seemed so disappointed in himself. And this lady was telling her, you're a very good scientist. You're going to make history. You're going to make remarkable progress. And this man looked at her and was like, you know what? I think that time is really past. Because according to Albert Einstein, he said that if you cannot make the difference or make history by the time you are 30 in science, then you do not have a chance. And this lady told him, not everything that Albert Einstein said is right. Do you see that? And indeed, I can tell you, it is not right. Everything that has been written, because different people have different formulas. So if someone says that if you've not yet married by 30, then you are a failure in marriage, like who said? Where is it written? Is it God is it a fact stated in God? No, it's not. So you realize that sometimes our spirits get sunken because of people's milestones and what people are measuring for us. And yet, let me tell you, God is still giving you time to make it right. And he will give you time, even if it means multiple times and multiple times and multiple times. Okay? He will give you that time. But again, I want us to know that there is also a limitation. Okay? The grace is sufficient that it will be with you for the rest of your time, but there is always a grace period. Now, those are two different things. The grace is sufficient that it will be with you forever, but there is a grace period within which there is an ease for you to do things. That's why I say do not miss the wave, okay? Because how we miss God's grace, or we're not able to do the things that we are supposed to do, is actually a way of insulting God. Because he has said, I've given you time, put it right, make it right. He says the grace is sufficient, but there is a grace period. And let me tell you, after you've outgrown certain things, have you seen a 50-year-old, a 60-year-old, a 70-year-old trying to do what they should have done 15 years ago, 20 years ago, or 5 years ago? As in, it comes with a bit of hardships. It doesn't mean that it is impossible, but it comes with a bit of hardship. Because a 30-year-old or a 20-year-old, like, they are too naive. They are just going about their business. So they have enough time to stretch, right? So they have the luxury of playing or wasting time. Why? And which we shouldn't be doing. But you realize that most people, that is what we actually end up doing. So when the time is coming to, is elapsing, is moving, then now we remember and we're like, you know what? But you realize that the grace is still there for you to be able to redeem yourself. But remember, you do not have the strength of the 20-year-old. Now it's going to come with a little bit of hardship, but it is still doable. So I need us to be able to know that, okay, and be able to know that there is a grace period for something. There is a grace period for you to be able to earn the money that you need to be able to earn. Okay? There is a grace period for you to be able to transform other people, to help other people. Otherwise, you will work twice as hard if that grace period goes away. But I don't wish it for anyone, and I don't want it for anyone to happen. For those of you that are writing, there is no elevation or evolution without grace. Grace is, the authority that is undeserved, the ability that is undeserved, that is not earned. Okay? Like, you didn't work hard for it. And I don't know if so many of you have gotten to a place and said that, you know what, I'm not the best person on earth, but I'm still alive. I got a back pain. Okay? When I got a back pain, when I tried to look for information why I was getting a back pain, I discovered that when you take longer periods of time without enough water intake, the discs on your backbone, they shrink. When they shrink, you start getting the pain. The nerves around start sending pain in a way to warn you that water is getting depleted in your body. Now, I could barely sit. So what I did was I had to actually get out of the fast, drink a lot of water, and just take like 3 hours, because I was told if I take like 3 hours after consuming a lot of water, then my body is going to reset and I'm going to be able. Now, I learned a hard lesson about drinking water. But what that brought to me is the pain that people that die of hunger go through. Just imagine a child that you have seen, ngembirizi, ziri kungulu. What is happening in their backbone? If I took just 100 hours in that fast, I fasted for 100 hours, and without food. And if, just imagine that this is a child, it's not just a chosen fast, but this is a child that there is no food. There is someone who has ever gone to Karamoja, and they went to where they cook from, and they're like, for the past 5 days, no food has been cooked in this homestead. And the children, all the rib cages, you could see them. You could see. So just imagine if I felt pain for those 100 hours, how much pain are those children going through, or are those adults going through? I even had to rethink why we have street people. You get it? Because most people think that we have street people because, I mean, they are bejalabia, or it's not luxurious to be on the street. But chances are someone is there and it's 2 weeks without food, and they're like, you know what, we are not going to die here. If I have to invest all my transport or beg a conductor to go to the roads of Kampala, at least I will go to the rich neighborhoods and eat bread that is dumped in the dumpster and drink soda that has been left in the bottles and watch the kukokota, the blue band that is on their dustbins. At least I will breathe for one more day. Do you see how that changes your thinking? Do you see how you stop taking things for granted? That even taking a sip of water is not something that you can take for granted. That even eating a meal is not something that you can take for granted. And I just brought that to show you that so many of the things that we have are unearned. We have not earned them. You are not better, your life is not better than anyone that is dying in Gaza, in northern Uganda, in all those places, in the different places in the world, in Sudan when they were hunger stricken. As in, your life is not better than anyone. But guess what? There is a special grace that has been extended to you, that you will live the life that you live. And guess what? It is not just extended for the sake of extended. There is a reason as to why God preserved your life. There is a reason as to why you are still breathing today. There is a reason as to why you still have food on your table. There is a reason as to why now. Find that reason. Find that reason. It is not just to wake up and don't have a plan. It is not just to wake up and not have a goal. It is to wake up and extend that undeserved grace to another person. Is to wake up and give a hand to another person. It might not be in terms of food or money, but let it be in terms of giving hope. Let it be in terms of creating people's better future. That I am preparing someone for a marriage. That we will have flourishing marriages. That I might not change the trajectory of all the marriages in Uganda, but at least there will be some marriages that will be thriving. By the time I am doing this, there will be some marriages that will be thriving. That I might not change the trajectory of all the teenagers in the world, but at least there will be a small percentage that will say, Sarah stood in the gap and spoke to us. That my future, well, I didn't play with my future because someone dared to say something. That someone dared to even post on social media. That someone dared to share their story. You've not been left on earth for no reason. There is a reason. So you're not doing what you are supposed to do. You are insulting God. I want that to sink in. I want you to think about it. If you thought you were just dreaming your own things and doing your own things, no, you are not dreaming your own things and doing your own things. Part of what you feel deep down in your heart is a burden that God has put on you, and He's saying, go for me, represent me, speak on my behalf. But again, this is what we say. When I looked at the camera, I didn't know what to say. And God is saying, shame on you. God is saying what? I don't know how to speak. You don't know how to speak. You stammer. But let me tell you. There is a mechanic, our current mechanic. I just like that man. As in, he will speak with his stammers. But he delivers value, like 150% value. And when he speaks, let me tell you, when you deliver value, if you stammer, they will wait for you to finish. They will even seek for another person to interpret if they can't understand. What have they said? But because they need that value from you, they will listen. So now you can't say, you know what, Kati, what? Should we exchange your not knowing, not having words to say on camera for stammering? Should we? Should we give you a dose of that? Wanji? Neda, tell me how that does not make you feel like you're insulting God. That God, I actually have proper speech, I have a proper brain, I can reason, but here I am, looking all cute, and saying, you know what, I cannot post on social media is not my thing. Shame on you. Shame on what? You don't have to help everyone in the world, even if it is one soul like this. Even if it is one one soul. Your aim should not be, I should be known by many people. I should not be. Definitely when you start helping, value attracts. So when it's going to attract the whole world. But that is where you will know I'm not competing with anyone. What I have is undeserved. So where should I go mpaka zindalone wani ntindi wakabi? Wanje? Because it is undeserved. How do I begin to boast that, I am the best speaker in the world? I didn't give myself the speaking. I didn't. It is undeserved. It is unearned. God saw it in his best interest that if I partner with Bahati in what I want to accomplish in Mary's life, in Joan's life, in Sarah's life, in David's life, in Lavender's life, I will have created an army that is going to transform the world. So when God was envisioning me being on earth and covering me and protecting me through all the stories that I have shared with you, to that I am still alive to date, then I look back and I'm like, you know what? If I wake up one single day and I can't do what I'm supposed to do, I have a problem in my head. I should be so grateful that I've even been offered a chance to partner with God in transforming his people. Okay? I should feel proud. So, everything I have, God gave it to me. Who can say otherwise? That everything you have, you gave it to yourself. Put a hand up if that's what you feel. Otherwise, we will get, we will say, you know what, this message has stopped here because it seems we were lying to ourselves. Huh? The oxygen, where do you measure it from? You saw people during COVID. As in a whole hospital. Like oxygen just blinks like this and 100 people die. Like at once in a ward. Because some of the nurses used to even say that, you know what, there are too many, to the extent that some people will be here wailing, please, what can I do? I can even pay 5 million just to have a cylinder of oxygen. I can even do what? And all of a sudden, some people would put people on cylinders that were empty. Yes. To the extent that some of the cylinders, even when one of them told me that for me to know that there was no oxygen in those cylinders, one of the cleaners came and took out the plug for the oxygen and put her phone to charge. And so that is when the attendant gets to know that my patient has been fighting on her own. So now, if there is a critical condition, we are not surviving. And now they had to make all sorts of calls, and no one had oxygen around. People were buying oxygen, moving with canisters in their boots. As in, we were in panic. Now, if you cannot think back to that time and say that, you know what, everything I have zenche to sizako, that is why you can crush people, kick people, step on people, that is why you can gossip, that is why you can rumor monger. Let me tell you, when you think about God extending the grace of you being alive, that is when you repent and say, you know what, I should think again. I should think again, because the people that died, I know some of them, one of them was my uncle, the closest uncle I have ever had. Up to today, it is the major depression that I have ever had to go through. Because while he died, my husband had traveled and he had COVID. Now, I was on phone with him every time, telling him, wake up, go to the gym. Wake up, because before he went, I actually packed COVID medicine. And I know, I have to wake him up to go to the gym. I have to find out how he is. Sometimes I'm thinking he's lying, so I have to call his partner that he traveled with to find out whether he's okay. And he can't sleep in the same room with his partner, because then he would, And so you're thinking, so my uncle has died all of a sudden while we were still gathering money to get him to a better hospital that has oxygen. And guess what? They needed 5 million to just give him a bed. 5 million to give him a bed. The 5 million was gotten, he's on the bed, and he didn't survive. If there's any man that knew God, Godfrey Muhumuza, may God rest his soul, I think he is the man that I have ever seen with my life that loves God with all his life, that serves God with all his life. I looked at his family. I looked at his wife. The wife was 9 months pregnant. It was COVID time, no one moves. The few of us that had permits could move and go to the burial. We went to the burial site and you cannot see the body. Like the person that you have lived with, you have seen all your life. Because apart from my father being absent and not being in my life, that was the man that was the right-hand man to my mother. And now he's brought in an ambulance and refrigerated. And then they drive direct to the grave, and no one is supposed to see. You're supposed to be very many meters away, and they're supposed to put him in the grave and even bury, and then that is when you can come near the gravesite. Have you given everything to yourself? Is everything that you have, or do you owe it to yourself? Okay? So, everything that we have been given by God, okay? And we are all grace cases. We have all been recipients of grace. Arrogance is saying that I was just lucky. You know how, have you heard people say that? I was just lucky that I got that job. I was just lucky. Hey, where is your lucky charm? Where did you get it from? Where can't all of us go and buy that lucky charm so that we can get the jobs? Do you know how many people are jobless in this town? As in people that have masters, people that have doctorates, people that have, and then a P7 dropout goes and gets a very nice job. Can you say that you earned it? You can't say. And even if you're the doctor, you've done a doctorate, and you go and get a job, as in go back and kneel down and thank God for that job. Anything, literally anything. You can't say, oh, I'm just lucky I had the children. Oh, I'm just lucky I got married. No, there is no lucky charm. No one is like, that is arrogance. That is a complete arrogance, okay? So, God says, and I said it, that I don't run out of grace, but I give grace periods. And there is penalty. When the grace period, someone ever extended grace period? Can be for rent, can be for, someone extends a grace period. That means you cannot be punished, even if you do anything, for as long as the grace period is there. But when the grace period elapses, there is always an attachment of a punishment or something to be done. You get it? Now, here, actually, God is like, I'm not going to punish you because I'm not in the business of punishing. No. But the world is going to punish you. Your own guilt of, I self-sabotaged. Your own guilt of, I slept on the job. Your own guilt of, I dropped the ball. Your own guilt of, I knew what to do, but I did not do what I had to do. Who do you share that guilt with? Like no one. Like, I knew what to do, but I just didn't do it. I knew that I had to work harder. I knew that I had to put in more time. I knew that I had to pray. I knew that I had to work on my business diligently, like every single day of my life. I knew it, that it was not too late for me. I could start, but I just failed to start. So now you have the regret of, what could have been if I had done this? That's the worst regret. Some of us think that fear is the worst thing. No. Regret is the worst pain. Because you look back and you can't redeem that time. So start today what you are meant to start today. Do not procrastinate it. Do not procrastinate it. Saying, but I will start promoting, and then I will start posting my business quite often. I will start talking to people about it. I told you here, some of you have businesses, but your close friends, your relatives, your church members, your people that you go with, whether to the mosque, whether to what, they don't know that you actually have a business. And some of them you're like, but yabo, bagenda kumalambo manyima, nedda, jibakube mu maaso, bakumalemu amanyo bagambe, I'm not going back. I came. I started. So whether you support me or you don't support me, I'm still going to do it. Because we regret the things we do not do. We cannot regret what we have done. Because then you're like, I tried it. It just didn't work out. You get it? And even if you tried it and it didn't work out, I will ask you, did you try again? Hey, did you try again? So you don't have a way out. There is no easy way out of, Kale, I tried and it didn't work out and then I left it. And I'm like, hey, that is how things work now. That when you try something and it doesn't work, you just abandon it. Would we ever have wealthy people? Would people ever get successful if they tried once and just gave up? If the owners of arcades and biggest buildings in town started with selling eggs and moving with eggs at sites and asking mujakuliako, and all of a sudden there is someone who told me someone picked an egg and just beat it, the person who was selling it, back into his face. And he's like, and then all of a sudden you're like, but you know, now they're no longer, they insulted me, so I'm not going to sell eggs again. Hey. How are you going to live to see the next day? Because there has to be a means of survival for you to see the next day. And that is by choice. Situations or good situations do not just fall on your lap and you're like, now things have just happened. Things don't just happen. We make things happen. Okay? So, you're coming to the end of your grace period. You are coming to the end of your grace period. Yeah. Today, I came to shake your minds so that you know that there is a grace period. The moment you start playing, and when you start seeing, you will see the people that you started with, that you were with in the mentorship or you were with, and people are running. And sometimes I say, do not look at everyone that is running, run your own race. But do you think Akobo Ntukabulam? As in, it will always be there. Like, but we sat on the same table. But we were in the same class. Why is it that someone is doing better and the other person is not doing better? Is it because the other person is just lucky or the other person? No, there is effort. There is effort. And there is one who goes beyond effort. There is one who will get into a room full of people and then they will just choose, and some of you have done that. You go into a room full of people, you just pick a drink somewhere, and then you go to a corner and start scrolling, and then you start laughing with TikTok, and TikTok came because one after one, entertainment on entertainment, and you start laughing, and you start what? When someone comes to say hi, you even say hi, and then you go back to your phone. Okay? And then you're like, God, I'm praying for business increase. I'm saying that you will take me to nations. Take you to nations where? Through who? Through who? Sorry? Through TikTok. Because, like, God has given you conduits. If you're writing, write conduits, as in people are conduits. People are connectors, destiny connectors. They are doors. That where you are, either working right now, you didn't get there by yourself. There is someone who connected you. There is someone There is someone who said, there is this thing, let's do it. Even if it was just a small idea, but someone connected you to that idea. So now, why do you lock out everyone? Because I'm an introvert. Hey, those are some of the excuses that we give, and some of the excuses that we use to insult God. You know, I'm an introvert. You're an introvert? So, so introverts can't do anything. You know, I even fear speaking, you know, amongst people, and, you know, I also get panic attacks. So I don't know. I think this is... Sorry? A true introvert. They even have, like, bigger words for it. You know, this is how I grew up. You know, I don't know how else to live. You know, but I know people who are better, like they can speak, they can do what. Why are you pushing opportunities to other people? Just say, what does it take to speak? To open my mouth? What does it take to speak? To pick interest in people? Just to go to someone and I introduce myself. I'm like, you know what? I am Bahati Hilda. And then when they ask me, what do you do? Some of us cannot even answer a simple question of what do you do? Randomly, if I asked anyone here, what do you do? You know, there are many things, but... you know, and it's as simple as I'm a coffee grower. It's as simple as I'm a broadcaster. I'm a stylist. I'm a teacher. It's as simple as I'm a pastor. It's as simple as I'm an events coordinator. I'm an events planner. But some of us, you know, in this world, like I'm talented. So like I've done so many things and I've put on so many hats. Yeah, like, yeah, I've done so many things. Like, I've done this, until I'm asking, until I'm feeling this is Kamonguluze. This is, like, someone can read that you're not confident. Someone can read that you even don't know what you do. And then the next thing is they will be on the next one. But the moment you have a firm handshake, and you're like, you know what, I'm a coffee grower, or I'm a coffee brewer, and someone, come to think about it, coffee brewer, I've never heard. Do you see how it's a conversation starter? Someone's like, coffee brewer. It's like, so what do coffee brewers do? I do this and I do this. I'm interested. I should, and then I have a restaurant, and then I should come to your restaurant. Before you know it, like you even have, give me your number, give your number. I've never heard of that. You know, oh, you just tell people, I'm a social media manager. And it's like, so what do you do exactly? You know, I help people, celebrities, companies manage their social presence and, promote them, their growth and stuff like that. And I'm like, sometimes that is when someone discovered, I actually need that. Okay, give me your number. I will need your services. But here you are, sipping your cappuccino that you didn't buy with your money. You went, you went to an event. So you're drinking your cappuccino and you're drinking it slowly because you don't want it to get finished. And you're scrolling on TikTok and you're laughing and you're screenshotting things that you want to buy. With which money? With which money? Because here, it's about multiplication of money. How are you going to multiply money while you're being a deliberate introvert? How are you going? A certified. Hey. Guys, that is an insult on the ability and the authority that God has given to you, on the brain that God has given you, on the life that God has given to you. There are people who are not as lucky as you are, or who are not as blessed as you are, who have not received the same kind of grace that you actually have. Okay? So the goal here is to be able to optimize your life. To optimize your life. Okay? And I just want us to very quickly to go through the types of grace. Did you know that there are types of grace? You didn't know. There are types of grace, okay? And number one is the common grace. The common grace. This is where we say that God does not discriminate. God does not discriminate. He gives to everyone. You remember that scripture in Ecclesiastes that says that food is not to the strong, and then the rest is not to the swift, but chance happens to all. Okay? And then there is somewhere where it talks about that it rains on both the unjust and the just. Okay? Both there are people that you have seen that very unholy but very healthy. Yeah. Right? Very unholy but very prospering. Very unholy. So where is that coming from? Is that there is a common grace that God pours on every one of us that does not discriminate. Whether you're heathen, whether you know God, whether you don't know God, whether you've never even heard about God, whether you are in a world where you've never heard anything about the name of God, that grace will also be present for you. So do you realize that no one is escaping? No one can say that, grace is for those ones. No. There's no way you can say, but I think grace is for those who pray a lot. Grace is for those that give a lot. Grace is for those. No. Grace, there is a common grace that we all have. It does not discriminate. And you have that grace. Okay? That is why so many of us have fallen short in so many ways, right? We have fallen short. Even the Bible talks about it, that we have all fallen short of the grace of God. But again, the common grace covers us. That the just and the unjust, okay, will have the equal grace. That chance happens to all of us. That when you put in effort, there's something that will come at the end of the other side. That's why I say that out of principle, when you break principles, principles break you. When he says give and you will get, when you fail to give, you just... Okay? But again, there are those that are operating in the narrow escape, that they are not givers, but they keep getting. Hey! They're still operating in the common grace, but a time comes where we need more grace than just the common grace. Deeper grace. And that is why we are actually here, okay? And the second thing is the saving grace. The saving grace, we have talked about it. Why do you think you are still alive? Why do you think you have been preserved? There is a purpose why, okay? Why you survived that relationship. There is a purpose why you survived that accident. There is a purpose why. Some of us have lived lives of narrow escape, okay? I would never be here. There were so many instances that the devil just targeted. And I've said this before and said that the devil knows the impact, okay? The devil knows our power. And sometimes he knows it right from birth. That this person, the moment I let them loose, I think I should be able to kill them. You remember how they looked for the generation of Jesus, how they were looking for firstborns, how they were looking to, as in, the devil was like, you know what, I've gotten hints of there is a savior coming. So I better kill them when they are young, because if I leave them live up to 33 years, they will fulfill a lot of prophecies and what they are supposed to do. A snake finds me in my mother's bed. And then they tell me, if it had found my mother would have been dead. Because it was not sent to bite me, that is why I survived. And my leg was supposed to be cut off. And guess what? The easiest place we had to go to was a shrine, so that I can be medicated, because it was beyond hospital. And so I remember sitting in a shrine, and them, you know, having those leaves. I don't know if any of you have ever been to shrines. Let me tell you, when I say that everything I have and who I am has been made by God, I have a history. So do you see when I mention about grace, guys? Do you see when I mention about grace that we have not earned it? We have not. In devil's kingdom, it is something for something, right? And everything has an upgrade. If a hen is not sufficient, if a lizard is not sufficient, it will be a hen. If a hen is not as sufficient, it will be a goat. If a goat is not sufficient, it will be a cow. And if a cow is not sufficient, a human being. And meanwhile, God has given us freely. And then we have the audacity to insult him and say we are not who he has created us to be. It's like when you have the power to create, okay? And you create something and it can't do what you created it for. It just resigns to saying, let me just look cute. And no, you buy a computer, and the computer, you open it and it has blacked out and it's not, what do you do? Like, you're disappointed. I bought something that I wanted to use and it's just not working. And that is what we do with God, okay? So when I say that the saving grace, I want you to recollect about your own life. The instances. There are so many times. The next one, I should have, for every one of my child, I should have remained in the theater. The firstborn, 5 days on oxygen. I get back to the ward and I cannot breathe. And I remember just mentioning one word, and God helped me, because if I had someone who is with me, you know those people that come to be with you? Now it was my mother. My mother that doesn't take anything for granted. Just imagine if it was maybe a friend or someone, and you're telling them, I can't breathe, and they're saying, you try to sit, you try to face this side, you try to face this side. The moment I told her I cannot breathe, she just went to the corridors of the hospital and shouted, she is dying. So you know how the doctors and the nurses will be like, code blue, and they are rushing, they are coming with the oxygen can, and immediately they are putting on you, they are taking you to intensive care. I stayed in the intensive care, and guess what? For 5 days, I didn't know what was happening on earth. For 5 days. I didn't even know that I had a child I had given birth. So when I'm given another chance to live, I'm like, you know what? I will die speaking. I will die speaking. What I will speak to an empty room? Maybe I will go to the street, but the gifts that God has given to me, I will, even if I write and no one reads, I will write. Why? Because I've not given it to myself. Okay? There is a grace, a saving grace that keeps me going. How many of us think we still should go on? Look at them. Look at them. Okay? And let me tell you, the saving grace, this is what happens, and this is the magic behind it. The saving grace sometimes can be a narrow escape. The saving grace does not just save you and you just walk out. Sometimes you walk out smelling like smoke. You remember the Hebrew boys? How they went into the fire and they came out and they said the fourth man was with us. But they had as in the smoke, you know. Sometimes we can smell like the breakup. Sometimes we can smell like the collapse of the business, how it collapsed. Sometimes we can smell like shattered dreams. But let me tell you, even when we smell like the shattered dreams, the saving grace is still in action. The saving grace is still redeeming us. We're still getting another chance to do something much better. That is why we say the best revenge is to keep going. Won't you? Otherwise, if you're still walking, and there's a song that says that if you're going through fire, I don't know whether you know that song, if you're going through fire, don't stop. If you're going through hell, don't stop. As in, some of us get in fire and hell and stop. And you're like, I'm done. I am finished. You start wailing, but you're standing in the fire. But when you say, don't stop, keep going, because there is a patch that does not have the fire. But you realize the saving grace does not mean that everything is going to be okay. Sometimes we narrowly escape. You go through an accident. I remember there's a time my mother got involved in an accident. And let me tell you, everyone in that taxi died. Everyone. And it was a Muzungu woman who was driving around, a tourist at that, who was moving, and she told people, there is a woman in the back seat that is still breathing. I can see her hand shaking. That is how they break the window. They get her out. And everyone is like, if I take her to hospital, they will think I'm the one. If they take her to hospital, everyone refused. And the Muzungu woman said, if I never go back to my country, at least I will have saved this woman. She put her in her car without even thinking that her seats were going to be spoiled, because she was oozing blood and she did not have anyone. She doesn't know anyone. She doesn't have a phone. She doesn't have anything on her. And she's risking her life to take someone to the hospital. Luckily enough, when they got to Weyogerere, my mother opened her eyes. When she opened her eyes, the tongue was full in the mouth. Like it had, bulged and swollen. And so she could not do anything. When she got to Weyogerere, she tapped the ceiling of the car. Now, the driver understood that maybe she's trying to say something. And luckily enough, there was an auntie of mine that had a kiosk near the road. So I don't know how God orchestrates his things. That's why we say that things of God are mysterious. She pointed to the kiosk. And the Mzungu woman, she was called Catherine. She told the driver, go to that kiosk and tell them to come and see the woman in the car. Chances are it's possible someone can identify her. And around that place, even if it were not for my auntie, around that place there was a church called House of Blessing, if some of you have ever been to Weyogerere. So around the church, my mother used to go so much to, we grew up in Weyogerere. So chances are someone would have identified her. So my auntie came, and when she saw her, she was like, Christine, what has happened? And she couldn't speak. And so she just got into the car without even locking her kiosk. And that's how they drive off, saved her life. Called us later to pack clothes and take to the hospital. So do you see the work of the saving grace? That sometimes the people that are going to save you are not the people that you know. Sometimes God will just bring someone. Maybe Catherine came to Uganda not to tour. Maybe she came to Uganda to save Christine's life. And you say that everything you have given to yourself? Isn't that an insult? It is an insult, okay? So don't take the grace for granted, okay? Then there is enabling grace. Enabling grace, the authority, okay, and means to do it. The authority and means to do it because his grace is sufficient. This reminds me of Paul when he said that that I ask of the Lord 3 times that he will take this thorn away from me. And he said, I will not take it away. But my grace is sufficient. Some of the miracles that we are waiting for God to do is not to heal us, but that you can survive with that sickness for the next 40 years, and yet it has killed people in 3 months. Oh, like thinking about it, anyone would not want it otherwise. They will say, when I pray for healing, I want healing to happen immediately. But how about when someone gives a testimony and said, I am a cancer survivor, but I battled cancer for 33 years. And you're like, there are people who have died within 1 month of proclaiming they have cancer. Why didn't I die? The saving grace. Okay? The enabling grace, that he gives you the grace to be able to carry that cross, to be able to endure, because there is a reason as to why he wants you to endure. And most of the times it's to the glory of his name. Lazarus, when they had called Jesus that, you know what, come, he's dying. This is what he should have done. Abandon everything he's doing and run. Okay? But he said he's sleeping. And he went around with his rounds in the village. But when he got there, what happened? I think everyone was like, it's a dead end, it's a gone case. Like, let's just, just go about our business, serve people, give them porridge, and give them katogo, and, just go on and just say, Kale. He was a friend, but he couldn't do much. And he was like, he did it for the glory. Because chances are, if he had resurrected Lazarus before burial, people would have said, it's possible that they actually misannounced his death. It's possible he was still breathing, but his heart had just stopped a little bit. And then all of a sudden, he started breathing again. Let me tell you, people have words. But all of a sudden, because he is buried, he has been tied with a cloth, he's been put in there. It is 4 days. Maybe if it was 1 day, they would have said, it was just 1 day. Let me tell you, people. Hey, people have propaganda. People have words of Ababi Jawa. I don't know. But now he waits for 4 days. And all of a sudden, who would have said? Because some of them were like, Master, he's thinking by now. And as in, the situation is hopeless as hopeless can be. And then God shows you one thing, that you can actually live to grow up your children, to bring up your children, that you can live to be able to revive that business again, that you can live to be able to impact lives. And whenever you stand, you will never take the glory. When God gives you the enabling grace, whenever you stand in front of people, you don't take the glory. Like, you take away all, you're like, you know what? This is not me, but this is God that is enabling me to do this. Otherwise, I am a walking corpse. I am a walking dead. As in, if it were according to the standards of the world, and if God had to consult people in order to bless me, like I was a gone case. But God does not consult people. He just does what he wants to do. So there is an enabling grace. Okay? And then let's just go to the last one, the empowering grace. The empowering grace. Now, the empowering grace, this is where God helps us to use the gifts that he has put inside of us. Because none of the spiritual gifts that we have given to ourselves. So he deposits the gifts inside of you. That is why we have different gifts. That is why when you go to choose which niche, every one of us has had a different niche. Some of us want to do with teenagers. Some of us are totally in business creation and product-based businesses. Some of us are in service-based businesses. Some of us are, dealing with mothers. Some of us are dealing with depression. So we have totally different gifts, but none of the gifts we have given to ourselves. So God is the depositor of that gift, okay? Why we are here is to develop that gift. And number 2, to deploy the gift. The reason as to why we are in the mentorship is to develop the gift. Because God has given you that gift. Even if you have the gift of speaking, you will start by saying what Joanne said and say that, you know what, I opened the camera and I couldn't say anything. That means that gift is inside of her, but she needs to develop it. So she needs to be more in front of the camera. She needs to do it over and over and over again until she can relax and get comfortable. That is developing of a gift. And then she needs to deploy it and use it. Some of us develop gifts and then we just stay with our gifts. You're like, yeah, I attended the mentorship. Kale, I learned how to speak, but I'm busy. We don't deploy the gift. So now he is the depositor of the gift, but we develop the gift and we deploy the gift, okay? And the gift is as a result of the grace. How are you arrogant about a gift that you didn't earn? If you ever see anyone praising themselves for what they are doing and what how they are helping masses and they're praising themselves, how can you be arrogant about the gift that God gave you that you didn't even earn? Okay? And how do you start feeling superior about the gift that you didn't earn? How? Okay? That is how you know you have been called to serve. Okay? And serving is not taking credit. Serving, you become a servant. Okay? You humble yourself under the mighty hand of God. And in due time, he lifts you. And when he lifts you or exalts you, he does not tell you, take the glory. When he lifts you and exalts you, he's telling you, serve my people. Whether you're doing business, you do it in service. Whether you have a coaching practice, you do it in service. Whatever it is that you are doing, whether you're pastoring, whether you're mothering, whatever it is that you get hands to do, even if it is your job, do it with the heart of a servant. Okay? Because it gets to our head when we start getting proud and we start taking the credit. Okay? So, we access grace by faith. I think I will conclude that we access faith. We access grace by faith. Some of us have started on doing certain things not because we are fully aware of what we are doing. How many of us feel like that's what's happening in our lives? Like we started doing certain things not because we were fully aware, but because we were like, you know what, let me start and see where this goes. Even for some of you to sign up for mentorship, it is faith. We are seated here because of faith. Because how were you assured that I was actually going to help you? How? So there was no assurance, apart maybe from the people that you have seen go through the mentorship, but you just had the faith and you were like, you know what, let me pay my money and go. And then we will figure it out. You get it? And on the way, you catch the fire. On the way, you deliver. On the way, you grow. You transform people's lives. People start giving you feedback. And then whenever they give you feedback, you're like, I can actually do this. Let me do it more. Before you know it, you become a household name. Before you know it, the doors to the nations are open for you. Before you know it, as in, you are not the same. As much as God gave you the gift grows you. The gift ignites you. The gift makes you glow. Let me tell you, when you start doing what you are meant to do, you glow different. You even stop taking in people's opinion. You're like, you know what? I have better things to do. Better things to do. I am busy. And this time you will say it while meaning it. You're like, no, you know what? I am busy, minding my business. And the people that I'm supposed to transform are my business. So I am researching for them. I am shooting videos for them. I'm promoting my business for them. I am showing up for them. Even when I put on, I am thinking the people that are going to see me, how you put on is going to change. The moment your name is out there and you've been seen on TV and people tell you that you're doing such a good work and your class has like 50 people and it's graduating to 100 people, how you do your hair is going to change. How you smell is going to change. Because you'll be like, when I go and hug these young girls, they should know that a woman must smell elegant. Do you see how you start changing? They should know that this is how we wear cigar lipstick. They should know that this is how you look nice and sweet. And so everything changes. Why? Because there is a gift you are deploying and the gift is changing you. Because a gift that is not touching you is not a gift that is going to touch anyone. It has to touch you before it touches anyone. Okay? So, I don't want to do this on my own. I hope that is your prayer. That you tell God, I don't want to do this on my own. I need your grace. And beyond the common grace, I need the enabling grace. I need the empowering grace. I need the grace, okay, that goes beyond the common grace, because the common grace is for everyone. But I want to go deeper than that. I want to go in partnership with you. I want to make decisions that are going to give glory to your name. And as they give glory to your name, the elevation and evolution and evolving of my life is actually happening. And I'm going places and doors are open for me, and nations are opening for me. So your prayer should be, I need grace that says, you know what? Weeping may endure for a night, but joy will come in the morning. Okay? And we can't access that grace if we are insulting God. We can't. We will have the common grace, but you will not do much. You will just have grace to breathe, to walk, to. Okay? But you want grace to do exploits. Okay? You want grace to do things that surpass human understanding. And that is what I wish for you. That is what I want for all of us. And so I pray that you can be able to do that. And let's just conclude in a word of prayer. I believe that there is a wave, and God, you have said that there is a grace period, that your grace never runs out. Your grace is sufficient for all of us. But there is a grace period where we must find our purpose, where we must find ourselves, and it is never too late. It is never too late. You are a God of a second chance, and your second chance does not mean twice, does not mean any number. That even if it's 100th number, that could be our second chance. And now what we are saying is we do not want to do this on our own. We don't want to operate corporations on our own, companies on our own. We are talking, and I know that under the sound of my voice, there are so many CEOs that are listening. There are so many business owners that are listening. There are so many venture holders that are listening. There are so many governmental heads that are listening. There are so many political people, politicians that are listening. There are so many teachers, so many parents, so many. And what we are saying is we want to tap into that grace, the empowering grace, the enabling grace, the saving grace, that we will escape everything that is shot at us, that every arrow that runs towards us, it will find the grace that is running towards us, and that grace will cut it short. That saving grace will cut it short, that we will live to see the goodness of God in the land of the living. And that goodness means money. That goodness means prospering. That goodness means good relationships. That goodness means health. That goodness means good families. That goodness means contentment and joy and happiness and faith. That goodness means that we grow in everything else and in every area of our life, that we will have harmonious lives and very healthy lives, and that we will serve you. We will help other people. We will extend our hand. We will hold other people's hand. We thank you for the grace, the common grace, the saving grace, the enabling grace, the empowering grace. We just don't want to run this race alone. We want to tap into your grace. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.